Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron. Welcome back to day 2, another live stream. It is the game review, Crystal Palace 0, Everton 0 at Selhurst Park on Saturday afternoon. A pretty dull afternoon on South London for Sean Dyche and his Everton side. A pretty dull afternoon for all of us really. I feel incredibly sorry for those thousands of Evertonians that were up at the absolute crack of dawn to make the journey all the way down to Palace on Saturday to watch what was quite frankly one of the most boring games of football I've ever watched, barring a couple of chances for Everton, one from Dominic Calvert-Lewin, which was actually a really well-worked chance by Dom, and he was quite unlucky with it, just put it wide, and one from Alex Iwobi, which was a good save, but a save you would expect any goalkeeper at this level to make, maybe barring Hugo Lloris, who has obviously had an absolutely horrific day at the office yesterday. But no, generally a save that you would expect most goalkeepers at this level to make. Other than that, Everton didn't really create anything in the game, which isn't surprising. Crystal Palace themselves weren't particularly great. It screamed from a Palace point of view the type of performance from a team that knew they were safe, knew that they didn't really have any sort of desperation to win the game. And that's not me saying they didn't want to win the game or me saying they weren't bothered or they couldn't be bothered playing. It just was a type of performance with a real lack of intensity from Crystal Palace. And you know, we've known from going up to Selhurst Park on a number of occasions in previous years when Palace need to win, they're a really, really difficult opposition to beat. They're a really, really difficult team to play against, and they've got some real quality in their forward, in their forward areas. The likes of Eze, who for me is really, really, really talented. Elise, of course, who I think is a fantastic player. On Jordan Ayew, who always seems to have a field day against Everton and had a field day again on Saturday. And of course, they've still got Zaha to come back, etc., etc. So it very much felt like a game for Crystal Palace that I think a lot of Crystal Palace fans will probably be not too disheartened with that performance and that result. They know that they're safe. They know they'll be okay. They've probably just forgotten about it and thought, wow, that was a boring game. Let's move away from that. Whereas for Everton, that wasn't the case. And I said this on the instant match reaction yesterday, and I'll say it again, and I understand that I'm probably repeating myself a little bit, but I just want to really, really, really nail down my point that for me on Saturday afternoon was not good enough. And as the title of this live stream reads, we need more. It's as simple as that. A point away from home against Crystal Palace in it's in the end of April, towards the end of April, when we're in a relegation battle in the same week that Leicester City have won, and okay, Nottingham Forest have dropped points and Leeds have dropped points, etc. But Leeds play Leicester City tomorrow afternoon, or tomorrow evening, sorry. So the very best we can hope for is both of those teams fail to win, pick up a point each, and that takes them both a point away from us, a point above Everton, I believe. Everton currently sat in the relegation zone. We've still got to play Leicester City in a week's time, next Monday evening. So a point away from home at Crystal Palace, whilst in a normal season, if Everton weren't fighting relegation, or if this game of football was played in October or November or even January, February, you might look at it and go, do you know what, that's not a bad point. But for me, the way in which that game panned out, the performance, the results, I just can't take any positive from it whatsoever. The only positive I can take is that we didn't lose the game. That's the only positive I can take from it, is that we didn't lose the game and we got a point in a week where Leeds United and Nottingham Forest didn't get a point. However, it will not be enough to draw the occasional game in between two losses. We lost 2 games on the bounce before this one, and this was a draw. Now, if I was to say to you, any Evertonian watching this, in any season, at any point in the season, forget being in a relegation battle and forget it being in April, if I was to say to you, any Evertonian, at any point in any Premier League season, regardless of where Everton are in the table and regardless of the calendar month in which those 2 fixtures fall in, Everton are to only take 1 point from Fulham at Goodison and Crystal Palace away. I don't care what anybody says. Nobody would sit there and tell me that that was a good return. Nobody. Now, I get the context of the situation. Fulham are a decent side and have had a good season, managed well, play well. Reality is Fulham had lost 4 games on the bounce. And as I said before the Fulham game, and I'll say it again, there was no world in which Fulham should have beaten Everton on that day. And certainly not in the way in which they did. I genuinely don't think anybody could sit there and tell me that they would have sat there when these fixtures were announced, not even knowing the position Everton would be in, and say that 4 points from Fulham away, 1 point from Fulham at home and Crystal Palace away is a good return. 4 points, yeah, good return. 3 points, okay, you can always lose one of them games. 1 point from those 2 fixtures, and that means no disrespect to those 2 teams, by the way. But 1 point is never a good return, let alone when we're in the position that we're in this late into the season. It isn't a good point away from home. It's as simple as that. It isn't a good point away from home because there is no such thing as a good point away from home. Newcastle United have just absolutely wiped the floor with Tottenham Hotspur yesterday. They were 5-0 up in 20 minutes. 5-0 up in 20 minutes. They won the game 6-1. Now, granted, it was a freak result and Tottenham were absolutely horrendous on the day, and I don't for 1 second believe that that result will be replicated on Thursday night. But we're playing Newcastle on Thursday night, and if Everton are to draw that game, it isn't a case of saying, well, Tottenham are challenging for the top 4 and they got beat 6-1, so if we get a point, then that's a good point. No, it's not. If Everton are to get a point on Thursday night, that is a woeful result. Because where do the wins come from? We've won 1 away game this season, so can anybody confidently sit there and tell me that they confidently in their heart of hearts believe that Everton will go and beat Wolves or Leicester or, any the other teams that we've got away from home between now and the end of the season? Because I can't. I genuinely can't sit there and say that Everton will win 1 away game between now and the end of the season. Brighton we've got as well. And that's not just because of the teams that we've got. That's not just because of who we're facing. That's because Everton generally are woeful away from home. We could be facing a team full of, plumbers that has been put together by the local boozer, and I wouldn't be confident of Everton going and winning away from home. So that narrows it down to the home fixtures, of which we have Newcastle United, Manchester City and Bournemouth on the final day. Where do the wins come from? And I said this after Fulham. When you have a game that presents itself against a side that have lost 4 games on the bounce, that have not really got anything to play for, and you turn up and perform the way that you did, it's not good enough. I said it after Forest. People saying it's not a bad point away at Forest, not a bad point. No, it is a bad point. Because we don't win away from home. We didn't have many fixtures coming up that were winnable games. And we were up twice in that game, and we threw it away twice. People saying Palace away, not a bad point. No, it is a bad point. Because the game was there for the taking if we had anything about us. But we didn't have anything about us at all. The manager made the wrong decisions. The forward players didn't give enough. And okay, defensively, we were okay. We were solid. And as I said, Crystal Palace didn't really do anything. Jordan Pickford had to make a couple of routine saves that you would expect him to make. But other than that, he didn't really have to do much. And you can't sit here and have a go at the defence. You can't sit here and have a go at the goalkeeper. But what we can do is observe that. I watched Nottingham Forest against Liverpool on Saturday evening on Match of the Day. I watched the highlights. And we haven't got a Morgan Gibbs-White. We haven't got a Brennan Johnson. We haven't got somebody that you look at and you think you've got genuine quality to change the game. We don't have anybody. Maybe Dominic Calvert-Lewin, okay, coming back for fitness, and we'll see how he does on Thursday night against Newcastle, which will be a massive boost, of course. It will, but, barring Dominic Calvert-Lewin, we don't have anybody like that. Even Leeds have got a couple of players that you look at and you think, oof, on form, you could change a game. Who do we have? Realistically, as an Evertonian, who do you look at and think they can come on and they can change a game? Who has proven that they can do that? Who has shown us as Evertonians that they're capable of coming on and changing a game? Has Damari Gray done it? No. Has Dwight McNeil done it? No. Has Neil Maupay done it? No. Has Alex Iwobi done it? No. So who has proven that? Every game we've won this season, barring Crystal Palace, has been based on moments. A moment of madness against Leeds, which Seamus Coleman scores. A moment of poor defending by Arsenal, in which James Tarkowski scores. A moment of capitalisation on Brentford being asleep in the opening couple of minutes. Dwight McNeil scores, and then we defend. And don't get me wrong, I'll take another 2-3 of them wins where the goal is a moment, and then we defend for our lives for 90 minutes. A moment of, madness against Tottenham, and we manage to get a point. The reality is we're relying on moments, and you don't always get those moments. There's no plan, there's no build-up, there's no quality, there's no, we've hit the bar, we've hit the post, we've hit the bar a couple of times, we've had some really good opportunities, and then we've scored a goal. There's none of that. Whenever we score, it seems completely out the blue. We have periods in games, 5-minute spells, 10-minute spells, where we have a little goal and we look like we're attacking and we look like we're getting forward. But there's never really any end product. There's never really any end product. And if there was, then even just an inch of that, even just a tiny little bit of it, would have been enough. For me personally, I think would have been enough to win that game on Saturday evening. But we didn't have anything. And it's another game that passes us by, another winnable game that passes us by. We've now got to turn up 40,000 Evertonians, and we will, and we absolutely will, and I'll be one of them, and ensure that by the time we leave Goodison Park on Thursday night, none of us can speak. None of us have got the energy to speak. None of us have got the voice to speak. None of us can. We're all absolutely shattered because we've given every ounce of our being to support our football club. And we will do that. But that still doesn't guarantee we'll get a good result. Forget Newcastle or how good Newcastle are or how good they were the other day. We've not been unlucky in games. We've shown nothing. We've shown nothing on Saturday evening. Nothing. I think we still could be playing now and we wouldn't have scored. We're relying on those moments, and those moments don't often come. If Leeds United's goalkeeper was a little bit better at positioning, Seamus Coleman wouldn't have scored his goal. If Arsenal could defend set pieces, James Tarkowski doesn't score his goal. If, Tottenham don't give Michael Keane all the space in the world, he doesn't score his goal. And I know people could say, well, you could say that about any goal in football, Cam, and you could. But I watch teams week in, week out in the Premier League ripple and I'm not just talking about Man City, by the way, or Arsenal or the top teams. I'm talking about teams, that are in and around where we are, fighting relegation, and I watch them week in, week out, put passages of play together and create nice little moments and triangles and bits of movement and score goals from that, or have a really good opportunity from that. I never see Everton do that. I never see Everton do it. These players train every single day. What are they working on? And I know Sean Dyche is a defensive manager, and I know Sean Dyche's number one default is to defend. And that's why he's playing players like Mason Holgate at right back or Ben Godfrey at right back, and he's not playing Nathan Patterson because he favours the players that naturally are better defenders, even though naturally I genuinely believe that I'm a better defender than Mason Holgate. But he plays Mason Holgate or he'll play Ben Godfrey because he believes they're better defenders than Nathan Patterson. But the reality is, we've got, let's say, we have, bear with me 2 seconds, 6 games to go. So let's say we draw every one of those games, which we won't do because we've got some difficult games and we've got the likes of City and, but let's just say we were to draw every one of those games because of Sean Dyche's defensive tactic. That would leave us with 6 extra points, which would put us on 34 points. Would 34 points be enough to keep us up? I don't know. Some people would say it would be. If Leicester beat us on Monday night, they would jump to 31. So they would only need one more win out of 5 games. And they'd be on 34. And we aren't going to draw every game. So that means that we need to start winning games of football. And that means that when we draw a winnable game and we don't show anything, I refuse to come away and say that's a good point, because it isn't a good point. If this game was panned out exactly the way it did, and in the exact same manner, but at Goodison Park, I don't think anybody would be saying it's a good point. It's not a good point just because we were playing 5 hours down the motorway, 4 hours down the motorway. Not at this time of the season in the position that we're in. It just isn't. I'm sorry, but it just isn't. And it leaves an immense amount of pressure on a game against the top 4 contender on Thursday night. And don't get me wrong, it wouldn't put it past Everton to go and beat Newcastle for a number of reasons. One of them being because we aren't expected to. And often Everton go out and pick up points in the games that you don't expect them to pick up points in, i.e. City away on New Year's Eve, i.e. Chelsea away this season, various other games over the years. Another reason being Anthony Gordon. I think Anthony Gordon being there as a Newcastle player will fuel an aggressive atmosphere amongst the Evertonians, and an aggressive, horrible Goodison is a good Goodison, and is a Goodison that works in the favour of Everton. But you know, I can't sit here and lie and say that I'm not worried when we are drawing games of football and showing absolutely no ability or no, not even any sort of idea, that we've got any idea of how to win a game of football. Sean Dyche said it himself. Burnley beat Everton 3-2 last season, around about this time last season, in what was one of the worst nights of my life. And I remember sitting there doing the instant match reaction thinking, that's it, we are gone. And Sean Dyche come out as the Burnley manager after that and said, I'm not sure these players know how to win a game of football. Well, now it's up to Sean Dyche to find out how to win games of football with the same group of players. Now, it turns out they didn't know how to win games of football because we ended up surviving. We won a couple of big games after that, one of them being Leicester away. And, we stayed up on the basis of that. Sean Dyche is now the Everton manager, and he now needs to figure out how Everton win games of football. And it's not Mason Holgate at right back, and it's not, it's not by persisting with. And it's difficult because, in an ideal world, Damari Gray wouldn't be anywhere near an Everton starting 11. In an ideal world, Dwight McNeil wouldn't be anywhere near an Everton starting 11. Neither would a number of players, but we haven't got any other options. So Damari Gray will play on Thursday. Should he play? Absolutely not, because he was an embarrassment on the weekend. And he wasn't the only one, but he was one that seemed to not show as much effort as maybe others. But he will play on Thursday because we have no other option. And that obviously is a much bigger issue, and an issue that is the fault of and the responsibility of the people in charge at the top of the football club. We've done a video already today addressing Bill Kenwright's statement and basically calling out to Farhad Moshiri to make the change now, because it's so inevitable that Bill Kenwright's time at this football club is done, that you are effectively he's hanging on by a thread, and we need to just get the scissors and cut the thread, to be honest. But they're issues that won't be fixed. Even if Bill Kenwright was to leave today and Dini Sparrow-Baxendale was to leave today, that wouldn't mean that Everton all of a sudden got a goal-scoring forward or a creative player. These are issues that won't be fixed until the end of the season, and at the end of the season it will be too late. So Sean Dyche, as the Everton manager, as the fella on millions of pounds a year, needs to figure out a way of getting this team scoring goals and creating chances. It's all right finding them, getting them away to defend properly and not concede them, be solid at the back, but that's not enough. That's not enough. We need to start winning games of football. And we aren't doing that at the moment. And that's why this performance and this result for me is incredibly disappointing, because it was a game we could have gone and won and we didn't. As I said, in terms of the game itself, it was a pretty dull game of football, wasn't it? I thought we started okay. I thought Palace started okay. I thought there was a couple of moments in the first half where it was quite, head in your hands, heart in your mouth sort of moments. But we dealt with them. I thought defensively we looked okay. I thought both centre-halves looked relatively good. I thought the goalkeeper dealt with everything that he needed to deal with. Fullbacks were, Vitaly Mykhalenko, I think, was atrocious on the ball, but luckily for us, wasn't massively involved in the game. And I thought Mason Holgate was Mason Holgate. I mean, I don't know why anybody is surprised. I sat there when the team news was read out, and I don't bet on Everton. No, I'm not a big better, to be perfectly honest with you. But I will never bet on Everton. Never, ever, ever, ever touch an Everton game. And I sat there and I turned around and I said to my girlfriend, Mason Holgate will get sent off today. It's written in the stars. He's always, or he'll do something. He'll either get sent off, or he'll give away a penalty, or he'll give away a silly free kick, or he'll make a mistake that'll lead to a goal. He will directly be involved in the downfall of Everton in this game, because he always is in games when he's not played in a while and he doesn't know how to console himself and he loses his head. It's just why he is starting games of football for Everton is beyond me. He's not been in the thinking before Saturday, so why was he in the thinking for a starting position in a massively important game? I don't know. I really don't know. And I'm not sitting here saying Nathan Patterson is the best right back in the world, and I'm not sitting here saying that Nathan Patterson is unbelievable and he massively deserves his chance because, you know, he's young and he's learning and he's not been great recently, but at least he's a right back, and at least he's a right back that isn't likely going to lose his head in the manner that Mason Holgate has proven he is capable of doing year in, year out. He's not changed since he was 19. He's still a child in the head, clearly. So why the manager persisted with Mason Holgate is beyond me. Why he chose him is beyond me. Why he kept him on the pitch at half-time on a yellow card clearly shows that he doesn't know much about this player, because every single Evertonian on the planet would have been able to tell you that he would be getting sent off in the second half. But, yeah, as I said, I thought we started okay. Dominic Calvert-Lewin obviously making his return into the first team, which was nice to see. I thought he worked hard. I thought he put himself about. I thought he looked fit and I thought he looked sharp, Dom. And that's one real big positive I think we can take out of this game, is that not only the return of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because it's one thing him coming back and, you know, and you know, making an appearance and playing in this game, etc., etc., but it's another thing him actually looking good. And I thought he did look good, and some people won't think he did because he didn't score an hat-trick and he didn't win us the game, but generally when you watch his performance, I thought there was a couple of good bits of movement. Thought he looked fit, he looked healthy, he looked strong, he looked capable, and ultimately he had a couple of good opportunities. The one where it's on the turn is brilliant. It's really well worked. Works it out for himself, and it's unlucky. He just puts it wide. And he had a couple of chances a little bit like that where he got the defender on the turn and then he just couldn't get his shot away, or he just couldn't get his shot on target. But he looked really, really sharp, really strong, and you know he looked like he was ready to sort of play in Premier League football matches, and hopefully that 90 minutes that he got under his belt on Saturday will help him on Thursday night in a game that we are heavily reliant on him not only playing in but being able to affect. But yeah, as I said, again, I thought the start of the game was okay. I thought Everton were battling. I thought Crystal Palace had moments where, like I mentioned, it was a little bit hard in the mouth. It was a little bit, oh shit. But nothing really that was of any real sort of threat to Everton. Nothing really that was any real trouble. I thought going forward from the first minute, we looked weak. As I said, every chance that Dominic Calvert-Lewin had, he pretty much created for himself. It was a long ball up and he pretty much took it down and done all of the work himself. The players that were around him weren't really involved. And I said this on the instant match reaction, I'll say it again, really disappointing, because especially I use Dwight McNeil as the example. Dwight McNeil for me has been the best player at the club since Sean Dyche has come into the football club. I think he's been the most improved. I think he's been the one that has been affected the most by Dyche coming in. And there have been a number of games that Dwight McNeil has put good ball after good ball after good ball in the box, whether it be fizzed across the box, whether it be into the air, whether it be into a dangerous area, and there's been nobody there because Neil Maupay or Damari Gray just aren't good enough to play up front on their own, so don't find those spaces, don't find those areas to move into. The game in which we really needed Neil Maupay to find, really needed Dwight McNeil to find those spaces and find those crosses and find those balls into the box, because we had Dominic Calvert-Lewin in there, a natural number 9 who could move into the space and who could latch onto one of those chances. He didn't give any of it. I thought he worked hard, Dwight McNeil, I thought he worked hard, I thought he ran around, I thought he put himself about, but his output and his final ball was atrocious. And as I said, listen, I'm not willing to sit here and give players an unbelievable amount of credit for working hard, because it's the absolute least they should be doing in an Everton shirt, is giving it 110%. And some of them don't even do that, but it's the absolute least that these people should be doing, is going out on that pitch and giving everything every time they do that. So the reality is, work hard or don't work hard, Dwight McNeil, Alex Iwobi, Damari Gray, Neil Maupay don't give enough. It's as simple as that. They do not give enough. They do not create enough. They do not offer enough. They aren't good enough going forward. It's as simple as that. And that was on show quite evidently on Saturday afternoon. Yeah, as I said, the first half was pretty much that, really. Nothing else really happened. A couple of half opportunities for Everton that nothing really come of. Similarly, a couple of balls into the box by Crystal Palace that, as I said, were sort of dealt with, not necessarily confidently, but dealt with. And we get to half time, and that was when I think it became quite apparent that Sean Dyche is massively missing a couple of players, really. The two midfielders, I think, it's quite evident to Corey and Onana. He's missing that physicality. Our midfield, I think, was absent. I thought James Garner was okay in patches in the first half, and I thought Garner Gay was okay in patches in the first half, but for the majority of the game, second half, pretty much all of the second half, I thought they were both pretty useless. We missed that physicality of Onana. We missed that physicality of the Corey, and even both of those players haven't been unbelievable. Certainly not Onana. I think Onana's been really poor in the last 2 months. I'll be honest. I think he's been really poor, and yet we're still missing having him in there, just because of that size and stature, even though he hasn't particularly been great. And Seamus Coleman, I think, is another one that the manager is missing, and why he didn't make that why he didn't make that change at half time to bring Mason Holgate off is beyond me. I don't think there was anybody at Selhurst Park other than Sean Dyche, and that includes Mason Holgate, that didn't know that that game was only ending one way for Mason. It's as simple as that, and Dyche doesn't make the change. We come out in the second half, and as I said, I think Palace give a bit, worked hard, battled for, 10, 15 minutes of the second half. And then I think they stepped off the gas a little bit. It was almost like an acceptance of, it's not our day. We're not really going to make anything or create anything, so let's just not lose. Let's sit back and just see this game out. It was very much one of them where it seemed, and again, some people will say, no, it wasn't like that. Obviously, Palace wanted to win the game, etc., etc. But it seemed from a Palace point of view that they weren't in any particular rush to, throw everybody forward or, change their system to try and win the game. They seemed comfortable. That's what I would say. They seemed comfortable. And when you were in a relegation battle, and when you have won one away game all season, and when you've got a couple of really difficult games coming up, and you are playing in a game with half an hour to go against a team that seem comfortable and don't necessarily seem like they're particularly there to win that game of football, you have to take risks. You have to have a bit about you. You have to go for the throat. You have to go for it. And not only did Everton not do that, but more worryingly, Everton were incapable of doing that. The forward players were incapable of creating an opportunity against the Palace side that looked flat in that last half an hour of the second half. The midfield were incapable of keeping hold of the ball and moving it and trying to create something and trying to make something happen. And it's disappointing because the game was very much there for the taking. It was there for the taking. It was there for us to go and capitalise on, and we didn't. And it's the same conversation we had after Nottingham Forest. It's the same conversation we had after Fulham. We simply don't have anything that makes me sit here confidently and say we'll be all right this season. In fact, I said it a few weeks ago and I'll say it again. I only see Everton surviving in one way, and that is us getting a couple of little draws here and there, and a couple of other teams around us, be it Leicester or Leeds or Forest, not getting anything from anywhere. I don't see Everton staying up by going. I don't see, if I'm being honest, I don't see Everton winning another 2 games this season. I don't. I think 1 out of 6, maybe we might get a win on Thursday because, as I said, of the atmosphere and the fans and, you know, it being at Goodison under the lights. We might get one, you know, against Bournemouth on the last day if everything's safe. Realistically, I don't see us winning more than 2 games this season. In fact, I don't see us winning more than 1 game this season. We might get a couple of points here and there, but I don't see us winning more than 1 game this season. And that is terrifying. And the reason for that is because we've had multiple occasions in recent weeks and months where we've had winnable games of football and winnable situations, and we've not been able to take advantage of it. As Wanderlust has got an incredibly good point here. He says, there aren't 3 teams worse than us, but there are 4 teams as bad as us. I hope that's enough. And that is absolutely what I would say. Everton staying up this season, I feel at this point, won't be because we've been amazing or we've gotten better or we've turned the corner. It will be based on pure luck. And that, when your Premier League survival is down to luck, how can any Evertonian go into Goodison Park on Thursday or at any point between now and the end of the season with anything other than just nerves? It's all well and good saying about emotion and stuff, but I am shitting myself ahead of every game Everton have got to play between now and the end of the season, because we just don't seem to be showing anything at the moment. And we don't seem to have any player that can show anything. We had one last season, but we sold him. Yeah, as I said, Mason Holgate goes and does what we all knew he would do, picks up a second yellow, and from that point we all knew the game was over. We all knew it was a case of shut up shop, defend, don't lose it, don't concede, and come away with a point. And that is the most disappointing thing, because if Mason Holgate had actually had a little bit of a brain about him, then maybe Everton would have been able to, 11 men on the pitch, last 15, 20, maybe go for the game a little bit more, maybe throw everything at it, maybe battle a little bit more. But we couldn't, because we were down to 10 men and we knew full well that if we got hit on the counter-attack with 10 men, we could lose that game and therefore lose that point. Bloody hell, Aaron Stevenson, you ran out Anthony Gordon and you demanded Sean that... Is that you in the comments, Bill? Hiya, Bill. You okay? Hope you seen my video before, mate. How are you doing? Yeah. Listen... Holgate gets sent off, and then, as I said, for the 20 minutes after that, 15 minutes, it was just a case of just hold on now. Don't give anything silly away. Why Ben Godfrey is brought on in front of Nathan Patterson is beyond me. We see the game out, we draw it, and as I said, not only one of the most boring games of football I've ever witnessed, but not a good point. And listen, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and my opinion doesn't mean anything more than anybody else's. I just put my opinion on YouTube for people to see. The reality is that I don't think that was a good point at all. Oh, Adam's a Newcastle fan, apparently. Oh, well. Yeah, we did run Anthony Gordon out, and you idiots were stupid enough to give us £40-odd million for him. But, you know, unfortunately for us Evertonians, the people dealing with that £40 million are also idiots. But, yeah. I don't know. Listen, we put it behind us. We move on. Maybe if we win on Thursday, we'll look and go 4 points out of them 2 games. Not too bad. Very, very, very difficult situation. Focus is on Thursday now. I'm sure you've all seen the information about, you know, going down to the game and getting behind the players and greeting the players' cars and stuff like that. I'll be involved in that, of course, to go down and try and create an atmosphere outside of Goodison before the game. If you are going the game, as I said, what I would try and do and implore us all to try and do is make it absolutely horrible for Newcastle, make it horrible for Anthony Gordon, make it horrible for all of them, make it a horrible, horrible atmosphere, and get behind those players. Get behind the manager. Horrible in a good way, by the way, not horrible against Everton. Horrible in a good way. Get behind the manager. Get behind those players, because that's all we can do now. And yeah, let's hope we can pull out a win. But we will be doing the game preview to that Newcastle game tomorrow, so don't forget to look out for that one. But anyway, we're going to leave it there. If you have enjoyed it, please hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Massive thanks to everybody for watching live. Really appreciate it. If you're watching as a YouTube video, leave your thoughts below. Don't forget to go and check out that video I uploaded earlier regarding Bill Kenwright's atrocious, sickening letter on Friday evening, and we had a conversation about that. So if you haven't checked that out, please do so. But massive thank you all for watching. Thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you do, and we'll see you later.